Is it more important to study the Rebbe's Torah over learning the Torah of other Chabad Rabbeim?
I once saw something written by one of the older Chassidim from the previous generation, Rabbi Nachman HaKohen, who was a chassid of the Rebbe Rashab, of the Frierdiker Rebbe, and of our Rebbe. And he said that he heard from the Rebbe Rashab that every chassid should mainly be learning the Maimarim of his Rebbe. But in order to understand the Maimarim of his Rebbe properly, he has to learn the Maimarim of all the Rabbeim and be knowledgeable in Chassidus. Basically, what does this mean? Our connection to Hashem is through our iskashrus to tzaddikim, and specifically each chassid to his Rebbe. In fact, connected to today's parsha of Ekev, where it says, "L'dofka boy," you should attach yourself to him. And Rashi brings the words of the Gemara, how could you attach yourself to the Shechina? The Shechina is like fire, eish eichlahu. Even though it's a metaphor, but speaking in metaphoric language, if it's like fire, you can't connect to it. And the Gemara's answer is, Hadbig b'tamid chachamim, Rashi says, connect yourself to the Torah scholars, tzaddikim, and through them you'll be connected to Hashem. So just like every individual has a very specific and unique shlichus in this world, that's why the Gemara says that one of the sages asked another one of the sages, Avuch, b'may hevet zor tfei, your father, what was his main mitzvah? And it doesn't mean chas v'shalom that he wasn't so careful with other mitzvahs. He was careful with every mitzvah 100%. But there was something in Torah mitzvahs that his devotion and dedication was way beyond everything else, because that was connected to his unique mission in this world. So just like every person has a unique mission, every generation has a unique mission. And for that reason, Hashem sends a leader to each individual generation, and that leader will lead them and in a way which is consistent with their mission of that specific generation. In fact, we see this in Rashi, in Chumash, Parshas Vayelech, Kapitel, if we want to look it up, Lamed Aleph Pasuk Zayin, chapter 31, verse 7, where Moshe Rabbeinu told Yeshua, you're going to be the next leader. If you have any questions, you can always consult with the elders of the generation. Then Hashem said to Yeshua, no, if the elders of the generation will tell you that Moshe Rabbeinu did it differently, you should use the term, take a stick and hit them and say, no, there's only one leader to a generation, not two. Which doesn't mean chas v'shalom in any way rejecting Moshe Rabbeinu's leadership, but it's a new generation and a new leader. This means that Hashem now wants a different kind of way of serving him. Of course, we're talking about subtle differences. Everything generally is, of course, the same. And each generation has a different leader leading us in that specific mission. So therefore, every person has to be mainly connected to the Rebbe in his generation, learn the Maimarim of the Rebbe in his generation, follow the directives of what the Rebbe in his generation told him, and that's how he becomes connected to Hashem. But in order to understand what his Rebbe is telling him, the Maimarim and the Sichas of our Rebbe, in order to understand it properly, we have to have the background knowledge of Chassidus in general. And that we have by learning the Chassidus of all the other Rabbeim. So therefore, both things are true, that we have to be totally dedicated mainly and primarily to the Chassidus of our Rebbe, but in order to succeed with that, we have to learn the Chassidus of all the Rabbeim. Following what we just said, the same applies even in one single generation. The Rebbe, at a certain point in that generation, tells us to do certain things, speaks about certain things. And a later point in the generation, the Rebbe says, and now our mission is, and now our main focus should be. And of course, that is where we should be dedicated to and loyal to, even though 10, 15, 20 years ago, the Rebbe said and spoke about other subjects, but just like generations change, in each generation itself, at different times of the generation, there's a different focus. Just like the Torah mitzvahs. Rosh Hashanah is one focus, Shavuos is another focus, Yom Kippur is a different focus, Pesach is a different focus. So even in the same generation of the Rebbe, like for example, in our generation, in many years, in the recent years, especially starting in the year Tavshin Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, which is 1991 and 1992, the Rebbe's main focus was to do everything we can to publicize to the world that Mashiach's coming is imminent, to recognize the changes in the world are a result of Mashiach's coming, to learn in Yonah Mashiach HaGeula, and that's the focus of our time now, and that's what and everything we learn of things the Rebbe said before is in order to understand better and to fulfill better the directives of the Rebbe that he's telling us now.